Hey everyone, welcome back to Divinely Disruptive podcast. I'm your host, Jane Powers. If this is your first time joining in, I'm so excited you're here. On the podcast, you're going to meet some influential people that have impacted me in a very intimate way. And I'm already getting choked up before we've even started, but this is my good friend, Shelbi. She's not only a model, entrepreneur, one of my closest spiritual sisters, and she's just killing the game in so many different ways. And I just am so inspired by her. So I cannot wait for you guys to meet her, share her story. And I know that you guys are going to just take away some amazing life lessons, because even though I'm a little older than her, she has such a mature, wise spirit, and she really does humble me. I think I know it all. And then I meet her, and just her humility, even amongst all the success and, you know, her life experiences, it's so honorable. So Shelbi, I'm so excited to have you, and thank you so much for your time. I know you're super busy, but it means the world to me that you're here. And I just hope that the way that you've already changed my life, I hope I can do that for you.
Oh my goodness, Jane, thank you so much.
But yeah, feel free to even chat about like how we met, because I'm sure people who are listening in or tuning in, maybe they know of you already and they didn't know that maybe you and I have met, or wondering how we're close or friends. But I would love to know how we met, and also share like your journey.
Yeah. Jane, I want to say first, thank you so much. I am so honored and blessed to be here today in your presence. Yes. And Jane is such a phenomenal woman, and you have impacted me, and you will speak life into me on the daily, even when I do not want to hear it. And so thank you so much for bringing me into your home and welcoming me here and able to speak.
Of course. I love you.
I love you too. So Jane and I met about 2 years ago. It was during the pandemic, and you sent me a DM. And it was to do my makeup, because she's a makeup artist. And at first I was like, who is this lady DMing me? It's during the middle of the pandemic. I don't even know what to do. And you actually did my friend's makeup first for a job.
Oh, that's awesome.
You did one of my friends from New York, and she told me about you, and she's like, this girl was so sweet, and she just talk on set, and you were just so filled with joy. And typically in the entertainment industry, most people are not super friendly, and there's a lot of walls up, and people are kind of in it for themselves. And you have a spirit that's very welcoming and filled with joy. And she spoke very, very highly of you. And she's like, you got to meet her. And then you sent me a DM to do my makeup. And I mean, I love getting my makeup done. So I was like, why not? And I know every photographer in Las Vegas, every makeup artist. Like, I worked with everybody. I've been modeling for 11 years now. And Jane welcomed me into her home. She did my makeup and she killed it.
Thank you.
And Nick, your husband, took some photos of me after, and that was a lot of fun. They have a beautiful studio in their home. That's how we met. And during the time that she was doing my makeup, it's about like an hour and a half. Yeah. You really get to know somebody, because a lot of free time, and we're just talking. And God has blessed me in so many ways. I've made a lot of my friends, honestly, through Instagram and the social media. And as she's doing my makeup, she just kept talking about God and spirituality and Jesus. And I could tell that she was different in a good way. Yeah. And that's not normal to talk about those types of things, and especially on set. Mm-hmm. And I'm the type of person where I like to talk about religion and God and all those things that make people uncomfortable all the time. And so when somebody else was bringing the conversation up, it made me feel very comfortable and vulnerable. And our friendship escalated very quickly because of that. And we just hit it off right away, and I'm super blessed by that. And now we serve at the same church, and we're in the same industry, and God is good.
Yeah. God had a plan, right? Like, as much as I'm thinking, oh my gosh, why am I sending you this DM? You know, I'm new to Vegas. You've been in the industry for a while, but I'm serious. I just felt conviction. And I remember telling my husband after I did your makeup, I'm like, she's different, right? So sometimes we don't know in the very moment why we've met these people, but I think, you know, we are a perfect example of honoring God on the highest level, but also honoring our intuition, right? Like, if we do sense this odd comfort and, you know, closeness, to also honor that. But at the same time, if you maybe don't feel safe, or maybe you feel uncomfortable, to also honor that, right? Yeah. So I'm so blessed that we both leaned into God, and we leaned into our faith. We didn't judge each other, because we could have, but look at where we are now.
Yeah, 2 years later.
Now, you know, if you don't mind me asking, I would love to know about your modeling journey, because you know, when you say 11 years, it blows my mind, Shelby, that you started so young. You know, again, I'll let you share your story, but just God, like when you started, how you got into it, you know, your experiences, both the good, bad, ugly, and also, you know, like how you didn't lose yourself. I'm sure that's not easy, but share with me your modeling journey and career.
Yeah, no, of course. So I've been modeling 11 years. I'm currently 25.
Yeah.
I started when I was 14. And entertainment in that industry is something that I was always intrigued by. I love to show off. I love to entertain at the house. I wanted to be a singer when I was younger. And I did all these singing competitions. And every time I did a singing competition, people were like, oh, you need a model. And so I got scouted quite a few times. And that's not something I really wanted to do. But a lot of people would stop me at the malls for that. And there's all these like agencies in Vegas and like whatever. And so my mom started taking photos of me on her camera. And that's how we like developed my portfolio when I was little. And she submitted my photos to a bunch of agencies in Vegas. And I got signed with my first agency, which is Best Agency. They're here in Vegas.
Awesome.
I'm still represented by them.
Yes, congrats.
And my mom had to do all my work. Like I had to skip school. My mom would take me to all my meetings and gigs and all that fun stuff. And then as I got older, I got scouted on Instagram.
Oh, wow.
And it was from a track photo. So it was me like running down the lane. So you can see like my body and all that. And this lady, she was my mother agent. Not anymore, but she found me and she's like, I want to be your mother agent. And I told my mom, I'm like, what's a mother agent? And my mom's like, I don't know. You need to block her. She's probably crazy. And I'm so glad I did not block her because she opened up so much opportunity for me. So she took my photos and we did a meeting and she submitted them to like Ford and Wilhelmina and Next and all these huge agencies. And I ended up getting signed by Ford worldwide at the age of 16.
That's crazy.
And so modeling back then is a lot different than it is now. Back then it's pretty standard, 00, high fashion, 5'9", you know, very slender. Yeah. And nowadays it doesn't really matter what size you are, as long as you know you're healthy and you're beautiful and you have a voice and you can speak well. But back then it was really tough. Yeah. And so at 16, I moved to New York by myself and I was living in what they call a model apartment. And what that is you're living with like 7 other models from like all over the world and you're in bunk beds. And I was paying like $3,000 a month. And at 16, you're broke. I mean, that's just the reality of it. And my agents were like, oh, no big deal. Like you'll pay us back when you get the check and you're going to work so much and yada, 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 all these things. And it's really tough to book work in New York because there's so many beautiful foreign people. Yeah. And it's, I've always been very confident, like borderline cocky, but it is intimidating. Mm-hmm. And there is a standard that you have to like look a certain way and act a certain way. And not everybody's very welcoming. And I grew up super Christian. Like I'm super loving. Yeah. I just love humans. I don't care if you're gonna be mean to me or not. I'm probably gonna love on you. And living in that model apartment was really tough. A lot of the girls were like really mean, but I did make a few really good gems as friends. So 16, I was in New York, and then I came back. I finished high school, and then I moved to LA for a little bit, and LA was tough. Yeah. So Ford out there. The biggest thing with me was I've always been very skinny, but it's always, can you be a little skinnier? Oh, man. And that's really tough on your mentality. Yeah. And so I ran every single day. I worked out 3 times a day. I drove myself crazy trying to attain this image that's not realistic. And even like to the point of like not eating I would like juice all the time. And it's just not sustainable. Like you cannot live like that. And I got to the point to where I like told my mom, I was like, dude, I cannot do this anymore. Like I do not want to model if this is what it is. Yeah. And also too, like, my Instagram started growing. I started getting a little more popular, and all these young like men and women, like the younger generation, kids in middle school and high school, like I don't want them to look at me and be like, oh, that's what I want to look like, because it's not realistic. Right. And so I did quit. I ended up quitting. I walked away from the modeling industry. Came back to Vegas for 2 years. I worked out here. I was living with my parents. And then part of me was like, I need to go back to New York and I need to model out there again. But I left Ford. I canceled all my contracts. I was done being high fashion. Yeah. And I went back out there and I worked out, but I was eating properly. And now I'm 25 and I do not care what my size is, what my measurement is, what
yeah,
my
I have
weight
noticed
is.
your little lean curvy body coming through.
Yeah.
I was like,
We
I
have
love
that fit girl, gym, CrossFit body
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
And at the end of the day, I just want that young girl or boy looking at me to be like, wow, she looks healthy and she looks really strong.
Yeah.
Because it's something that I can sustain. It's something that I can be. And like, I feel strong. I feel confident. And I think that's a very beautiful thing, but I've come a long way.
Yeah.
And I remember just like my mental health, it was really depressing. You know, it was really hard. If you don't eat properly, like if you're not getting the right fats to your brain, like you're going to just be depressed. Like it's not good. And so I'm really grateful that whole time that I did endure that, God was right by my side. My mom is so amazing. My mom was right there anytime I needed to call my mom. I remember calling my mother and like just like crying my eyes out. I'm not working out here in New York. It's so tough. I need to be skinnier. And it was just really hard. And with prayer and, you know, my mom and God, like I was able to make it through it, you know. And so that's a little bit of my mental health journey on that part. And it's cool now because I represent some models here in Vegas, and I understand what they go through. Because even though the industry is different, there's still this like body image that people think that they need to attain, but it's not true.
Man, and like just to add, thank you so much for sharing. And like, you know, I feel like God gives his strongest, you know, soldiers like the biggest battles and journey. And just even hearing you, I was taking a moment to be you for a moment, right? At that tender age. Because when you think about it, your younger teens, you're now beginning this journey of what is beautiful or what defines beauty. So to be thrown into that industry so young, but being who you are, like it's all God, right? And it's just so incredible the woman you've become with this experience, right? Because a lot of people, we've faced mental health issues and, you know, a lot of eating disorders, especially in this city, Vegas. But for you to overcome that and maintain a healthier lifestyle, like that is huge. So I just want to take a moment to like celebrate you and really be present with you, because just because you went, you know, got over it and you've overcome it, it doesn't take away your experience in your journey, right? Like it still happened, but it happened for you. And now that you're coaching other models and having people you represent, you have firsthand experience. So, you know, if God forbid they were going down a dark path, you can help them get back on track. So that is incredible, Shelbi. Now, if you don't mind, I also want to kind of touch about living in Vegas, what it's like, maybe like the difference between LA and New York, because again, I don't want to say anything bad about this city, but it is a different vibe when it comes to fashion and beauty. And as a makeup artist, just it's a different type of clientele. So share as much as you'd like, but I would love to kind of hear your thoughts about, as a female boss, as a, you know, woman in beauty, I would love to know just kind of like your take on Vegas.
You know, I love my city. I love Vegas so much. And I think that has a lot to do with, one, my church, and two, the community that I've built over the past couple of years. But and my family's here too. So that makes it easier, right? When I was living in New York, it was tough because I didn't have friends at first. My family's not here. But my church is absolutely amazing. I love city life. I love that my family's here, and I love that the city does have a lot of opportunity if you're smart with it. Now, Vegas is also a very tough city if you don't have your head on your shoulders, right? And it's easy to get caught up in the scene and get lost in it. So something my coach always told to me was that you need to have your firm foundation. And he used to come up to me when we train at like 6 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning. He'd like push me and he's like, hey, like, what's your firm foundation? And I was like, what are you talking about? He did all these analogies. And then he's like, all right, sit on the floor. And then he'd like try to push me. And like, obviously I'm not moving. I'm sitting on the floor. And he's like, that's your firm foundation. You need to make sure that you're holding on to God and that is truly your firm foundation. Because if it's not, I see so many girls and gals just get so caught up in Vegas and like what it is. In this city, it's Sin City. I mean, it's so easy to get consumed by, there's alcohol and drugs. And if you're a beautiful woman, like you are going to get sucked into it. Because, you are offered everything. And like, I mean, like I said, I started modeling super young age, moved to New York at 16. And I was a goody two shoe. I didn't start drinking till I was probably like 20, 21. And, but at 16, I remember going to like living in New York, and they'll let you go to the club. They don't care. 16, 17, like it's crazy. And people would offer me like alcohol and drugs and all these bad things. And I'm really glad my mom raised me pretty conservative and Cuban. And I knew if my mom caught me, she'd hit me with a chancla. But Vegas is very tough and it's very materialistic. I grew up on the lower income like class. And I didn't know this until I was older. I thought I grew up super wealthy and because I had everything. Yeah. But my brother's like, no, like our neighborhood's pretty ghetto, Shelby. I grew up on Jones and Washington, and it's not the best area of town. But my mom, she's from Cuba. She cleaned houses, cooked for people, sold her jewelry to put me in a private Christian school. So I went there kindergarten to senior year. And God is good because I'm telling you, if I would have went to a different school, I would have been a very different person. And so growing up that way, but also seeing my mom work as hard as she worked to get what she wanted, I do understand the value of money. And I don't need nice things. Are nice things nice? Yeah, of course. But I don't need it. And what I noticed in Vegas, what's huge is one, the way that we look as women, and two, how we wear it, right? Like what we're wearing. Every girl has a beautiful designer bag. Every girl in Vegas has fake boobs, and everyone has fake lips and fake everything. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? It's all a personal preference. But it's just a really big thing here, right? Like it's like Miami, like it's just it's huge. Like it's just that's what it is, and that's fine. Most women in Vegas make their money based off what they look like. Right. So they need to maintain this sexy, beautiful image. And that's the idea of what sexy and beautiful is, right? Big boobies, big this, and like all that. But at the end of the day, it's like what's so beautiful and what's so attractive is humility and the way that you carry yourself as a woman. And something that I've always prayed for myself is the woman that I'm attaining to be and that God molds me into the woman that he wants me to be, right? And like obviously, everybody has insecurities. Like I wouldn't mind if I was a bigger cup or like this, but I also don't need it because that doesn't represent my beauty, right? It's just it's an image thing and what the world classifies as beautiful. Right. But I truly believe like what's it called when you're like attracted to the mind? Like it's I think what's truly beautiful in a human is their intentions and their mindset, right? And like what they want to do and give back to the community. So Vegas is a pretty tough and materialistic city, but I believe anybody can conquer it if you have good intentions and you want to give back to this community and you have your head on right, because it can take you down real easy.
Man, no, and like that's a huge thing that people don't understand is I've been here 2 going on 3 years now, and like I said, you've made such a spiritual impact in my life. You have no idea. Like you've already made the impact. That's the cool part, right? About our connection. And so, you know, adding to everything you're sharing right now, I hope you realize you are that example, right? Of that woman. And, you know, I'm like your proud auntie sister. So, but it can be really discouraging, right? Like I'm almost 33. I'm a grown woman, but I think that's kind of the awareness we need to have, right? Especially women out here is it doesn't matter if you're in your 20s. It doesn't matter if you're in your 30s. It doesn't matter if you're in your 40s. You could be a very confident, secure, elegant, put together individual. But I have known just the longer you stay in the city, if we're not aware, you all of a sudden start questioning everything, right? Oh, yeah. And I was kind of a girly tomboy, so you know I didn't have to use my body to get ahead, right? And that's why I just feel so drawn to you is we can carry ourselves with beauty, but we're more than that, and we make it very obvious, especially our faith and our spiritual resilience. And you know, I struggled a lot. Like even my husband, he would get so tired of me coming home and being like, do I need to get my boobs done? Should I get Botox? And again, not to say that's bad, right? I'm all about self-love. I'm all about doing things that make you look and feel better as long as it's for you. But I had to have that serious question, like, is it for you, Jane, or are you trying to please people, right? You're around so many people that look a certain way. Does that define you? Should that define you? So you know, I'm not going to lie. I still ponder about it, but back to your point,
me too.
you know, because we're both athletic built, not to say that that's bad, because imagine how many women wish they had our body, right? Or our body type. But bringing it back to, you know, the city and the importance of faith. And again, how ironic is it that we go to the same church? But when we first met, we didn't know that, right?
Yeah.
But God knew. And I think it's truly everything. And I know that because I grew up in the church, Christianity or faith, like I didn't really think about how important it was until I moved here. Like Jane, kind of like what your fitness coach mentor spoke to you is like, what is the foundation you hold on to, or what is the foundation you lean into or sit on, right? And I totally agree with you. I've noticed when I don't put my faith first or God first, I'm so insecure. I'm so out of control. I push people away. And so you are a simple reminder of what it's like to live with faith, but also making sure your priorities are in check. Yeah. Just like even your presence right now, it's very humbling, and having humility in the city, I think, is so beautiful, right? Like we are redefining beauty. We're redefining confidence. And I truly believe that through our ability to be out in the nightclub or be out to a comp dinner, like you said, if you carry yourself a certain way, you get all the goodies. But I know for a fact that we are the light, right? Because one of my favorite things is when I'm hosting an event, I run into you and it's like, God knew what he was doing, right? But I'm thinking, look at you over there and look at me over here. But we need to honor that and celebrate that, because I think people are looking for that, right? Looking for that joy and light, and looking for that identity in a bigger, higher power besides, look at what she's wearing, or look at her boobs and look at her face. Maybe I need to do that so I can fit in. They're missing the point, right? Yeah. Like collectively as a community, whether it's again at a nightclub or at a dinner, we want to be around people that know who they are. Yeah. That's what makes it so fun, like getting to know each other's story. But how bland and boring is it if you and I had the exact same story and we had the exact same experience in life, and we literally, bring the same stuff to people, right? Yeah. But what makes this beautiful and unique and attractive is that God identity, right? 100%. And you and I can both agree where we're at in our spiritual walk is it's beyond religion. It's a relationship, and an intimate relationship with God, right? And not to say I'm holier than anyone or you're holier than anyone, but I do believe those that seek closeness to God and a higher power and seek spiritual health, we do show up different. We literally sound different. Yeah. And that's why I have just so much peace right now with you, is you get me and I get you. And I've noticed certain people, they're not always going to be our cup of tea. So with that said, I would love to also ask you that question, because I struggle with this, and I'm sure people listening and watching right now struggle with this. But how the heck do you stand firm in who you are when everyone else maybe thinks you're cuckoo, you're crazy, or you're on crack? Like, how do you stand firm in who you are when people are clearly bullying you or laughing or teasing you or being sarcastic? Because sometimes there's some truth in jokes. Yeah, of course. But, in what I've seen, you're just such a lover. How do you stand firm, and like, how do you teach someone who isn't as resilient as you? Yeah.
So I've always said, I feel like I am Jonah that got sent to Nineveh in this industry, because, he got sent to such a horrible place. Yeah. And so I've always felt like that was me in Sin City or in New York or in this chaos. And at the end of the day, I'm not called to judge anyone. I'm just called to love on people, because I'm not God and I'm not holier than thou. And sometimes it's really tough to love on people because people are crazy. But I'm just called to just love on people and lead by example. Now, when I say lead by example, I'm 25. I mess up every other day and I fall flat on my face. And I do believe that it humbles me. So for me, like, I truly have to start the day off. Like, I wake up pretty early. I'm up at like 5 or 6 a.m. every day, and I take my dogs for a walk and I play my Maverick City and I pray that the fruit of the spirits fall over me. I pray for wisdom. I pray for favor. I pray for abundance. I pray for the guardian angels to be inside of my household and outside my household every single day. If I miss a day, I can tell you I'm not having a good day that day. And just in this industry, like when I go out or I meet certain types of women or men and they carry themselves a certain way, I have to remind myself, I'm not here to judge them. I'm here to love on them, because I'm like, I might look at them like they're kind of crazy, but they probably look at me like I'm kind of crazy. I've gone to Lavo before on a Saturday. I like barely turned 21, and I looked probably like a little church girl. I was wearing these like like bell-bottom jeans with a conservative sweater and like button up everything. And all the girls get on the table and they're dancing. And I'm like, they're like, come join us. And I was like, I look like I don't belong here. And I don't know. I've always had, my mom says I'm the type of person that I can make friends with people very easily. And when I was younger, I used to call everybody my friend. And I'm a good talker. I'm really good at relating with people. And I'm very good at getting someone to talk to me because I'm very vulnerable with people. I don't know. I don't really have anything to hide. And at the end of the day, life is very tough. And so you never know what people are going through, if they're going through depression or, you know, they're just in a dark space. And so sometimes just sharing a smile and sharing your story and just talking with them, it can really be a breakthrough for them. And so at the end of the day, no matter where I'm at, when I go to a dinner that I don't want to go to, or like I go to an event that I don't really want to be there, I know God wants me there to possibly impact the man or woman next to me, because they might not have a lot of friends or whatever. And I'm always going to be that type of person that's going to be a friend to somebody. And so that's what I just feel like I'm called to do. I love people. I have so much compassion and empathy for everybody around me. My friends and family think that I'm crazy because I will literally meet someone out at the club and I'll invite them for dinner 2 days later and have like a game night. And I go, how long do you guys know each other? Oh, it's been 2 days. And I don't know. I just have a lot of love for people. And, you know, I say like I have a lot of friends and stuff, but I've always kind of felt like a lone wolf at the same time because I do live my life very differently. And I just, you know, to do certain stuff to attain what I'm doing, not everyone's going to always be there, right? But at the end of the day, I have to continue to like educate myself and lean into God because although like I'm kind of alone on this journey, God's always like, no, you still need to impact those people around you, you know? So yeah, that's kind of how it all goes.
Man. And, you know, that was like some real stuff right there.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like processing right now. I'm like, that was a lot. But no, I think a lot of people needed to hear that right now because, again, we easily get offended. And I don't know about you, but I know, you know, I had a very emotional breakdown on my first episode. Very unexpected, but I feel like that was kind of a trigger warning / alert warning to my actual self. Like, hey, Jane, you're not okay, right? Because you know me and how I move. I'm very good at being on. I'm very good at being a journalist or being a TV host, right? Like lights, camera, action. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the podcast, right? Of course, that's what we want to hear or what we think people want to hear, right? But bringing it back to what you're sharing about, you know, learning to love, learning not to judge. I feel like you hit something really powerful. And I don't know if you even caught this, but just your posture towards people, right? When you said, Jane, I just love people. I love loving on people. Like that right there, I don't think a lot of people understand, right? Like what that even means. And you definitely have a gift, Shelbi, because if everybody had that passion, I know we would be in a brighter, lighter city, right?
100%.
People loving on each other and just the flow of things. You know, we're all talking about good vibes, but really, are the vibes actually good? Or are you just preaching good vibes to post on social media? Like, hey, just finished a brunch with my girls. Like, let's be more real, right? Like, even if the vibes aren't good vibes, okay, what about it isn't good?
Yeah.
And back to your point, you know, you might be in places where you're like, I'm tired, or do I really need to be there? But you setting the tone, right? Like Jane, maybe there's somebody right next to me or in front of me, you know, he, she, whatever. I'm supposed to love on that person because maybe they are going through something and they haven't received the type of love that I'm going to show them, right? And in my experience during the pandemic and after, just even drivers, I feel like they're just so impatient. They're literally losing their shit. And it's like, whoa, wait a minute. I didn't mean to cut you off, or I didn't mean to look at you that way. And I got in this funk of like paranoia, right? Like, oh, okay, if I'm too happy, is that going to make someone feel small? Or if I'm too confident, because you and I both are like, thank God we're so confident, almost cocky, but God humbles us, right? Yeah. But a lot of people, sometimes I can feel it and see it in their face, like our confidence and our light sometimes just triggers them a little bit,
it can
right?
be intimidating.
And so when you just shared kind of that perspective of, Jane, my purpose and my priority is just to love, right? Before judgment or anything else, I think you're doing it right. And I need to get better at that, because I do have empathy. I am understanding, but sometimes the stubborn Korean in me is like, well, if you're not going to be nice, then why do I need to be nice? Right. And then God checks me. But sometimes it is tough sometimes to like be that positive, jolly self when you get bullied or targeted or against sarcasm. And I tell my mentor and my husband sometimes, I'm like, I think just people don't get me or just misunderstand me. So if you've ever been in a situation where you felt heavily misunderstood or judged, let's take it even further. How did you handle those moments?
Yeah. And real quick to bounce off what we just talked about, something that I preach on a lot and I talk about when I do, because I do a little bit of public speaking, is the most powerful tool that you have is your voice. And that's one tool that nobody can take away from you. Obviously, if you're going through depression or you're going through it or the enemy is just attacking you, I feel like that's when we lose our voice. And so you have to always rebuke that and pray that away, because God gave you your voice to impact those around you. So my biggest thing that I talk about is when you walk into a room, you have the power in your voice to change the atmosphere. So to change the atmosphere, what does that mean? That when I walk into the room, I want to grab everyone's attention, not by the way that I look, but by the way that I speak. And that when I speak life into the girl next to me. And so, the Bible talks about how the tongue is as sharp as a sword, and it can either speak life or speak death. And so I try to be very wise and mindful about what I say every day, and where I'm saying it and who I'm saying it to, because you never know who you're talking to and the impact that you're going to have on their life. And so in these atmospheres and events that we don't always want to go to, or that we know we have to attend, I try to be very mindful about the way that I carry myself, because it's such a powerful tool. And as a Christian woman, like I said, I'm called to love on people and I'm called to speak life. Because you're a disciple. And it's tough. To answer your question about
just like, have you ever been in a situation where maybe you didn't even provoke anything or start anything, but you were just heavily misunderstood and judged? Have you ever had a moment, and then in that, how did you deal with it or cope with it or handle it?
Yeah. So the one thing that came to my mind was I lost a really tight knit group of friends 2 years ago. And these were people that were like family to me. I like lived with them at one point, and we traveled together. And I made some decisions that I needed to make for myself, financial decisions and career wise. And the way that they took it as me betraying them and leaving them for a different company. But at the end of the day, I had to do what's best for my financial position as a human too. Because although they may be best friends, you're not married to your best friends. You're with yourself or your spouse. So you have to do what's best for your home and your family. And at the end of the day, I always let people speak their truth and let them tell me what's going on in their life. And I just felt I wasn't heard out in this current situation. And, all you can do, people act out of anger, and they act out of like just momentary, like just really quick, where sometimes people won't process their emotions. I'm personally not an emotional, I'm an emotional human. I have a lot of empath, but I don't ever act out on my emotions. I always act out logically. So it might take me a few days to respond to someone if I'm not feeling present or that I should speak yet, because I don't want to do anything that I shouldn't be doing. And so I don't have any resentment towards them. I don't have any hatred towards them. But our friendship has been cut off, and it was on their behalf. Like they just cut me out completely. And, I'm not mad about it. I completely understand, and I still love and cherish them. But at the end of the day, I was really upset. I was like, God, why did these people, or why are they out of my life? And at the end of the day, like, some people are only meant to be in your life for a season. And so the way that I responded was, it was actually very pleasant. And so I'm really proud of myself for that. And, that was one occurrence. And recently, this one.
Sorry, God just told me to ask you. I'm like,
this one like recently happened. But it wasn't towards me. It was towards my significant other. And somebody just kept degrading him and disrespecting him. And I don't like it when anyone tries to belittle anybody, because it's like, well, who are you? Like, we're all humans, and we're all here doing the same thing, working and trying to survive and have a good life. And it was a woman, attacking him, and I'm sitting right there, and I'm like, and in my head I was like, what do I say? Am I supposed to just sit here and like take it? And when she was speaking, it was almost as if it was like a sarcastic joke. But jokes are meant to be funny. So if you're offending somebody, it's not funny. I don't do sarcasm. I don't do belittling anybody. It's free to be nice.
Yeah.
And so as she's sitting there saying these things, my ego is starting to go up and my boundaries are being broken. So I'm offended. Yeah. And my significant other, he handled it very well. He's like, oh, whatever. And I'm there just getting angry. And I was like, I cannot react, because if I react, then they win, right? And so I was just, all right, Jesus, you better give me some peace right now. And I just looked at her and I was like, hey, it was really a pleasure meeting you, but we have to go now. And I grabbed his hand and I said, we're going to go inside right now, okay? Yeah. And we walked away and I looked at him and I said, I'm so sorry that we had to leave so abruptly, but I'm not going to sit there and let someone disrespect me like that. But I'm also not going to be rude to them, because, like I said, I have to show Jesus' love. Yes. And if that means walking away before I speak something that's not very kind, I'd rather do that. Yeah.
Gosh.
So,
man, all right.
It's tough, but I love a classy move, because I think it just, you hold yourself better.
Yeah. And I was just going to say,
more respect.
As I visually see that story happening, or that scene, it shows more of their character. Yeah. And then also your character, right? How you handled it. So I could see her just probably boiling it up and festering in hate and judgment. And you're actually more kind of graceful and peaceful, kind of like, all right, we obviously recognize the situation. God, we're going to just remove ourselves. Yeah. So, that story I'm asking, I asked that question because I know a lot of people right now, being intuitive and being an empath, like, I don't know about you, but I can just sense a lot of heaviness and like darkness and just loneliness and disconnect and hatred. So that's why I keep bringing up these topics around, who we are, confidence, and how we don't lose who we are, even if we are being judged and bullied and mistreated or even mislabeled, because I can almost sense like some people, we've kind of almost given up. Yeah. Right. Like, thank God you and I are able to, have the relationship that we have because we choose to be mature about it. Right. Yeah. We could both be two surfacey, vain, fleshly people if we wanted to, and be like, well, Shelby, I didn't like it that time. And you could have also been like, Jane, you never answered when I needed you. We could have, right? Yeah. But I'm so thankful and blessed that we care for each other enough and we love each other enough to be like, you know what? Time will settle, but I'm sorry in advance. I forgive myself. I forgive you. And, I ask for you to forgive me. But I love that we're able to always come together with maturity, 100%. But not ignore or act like nothing happened. And we don't need to act passive aggressive, but like, we're not perfect. Right. Yeah. And I'm able to acknowledge that and be like, Shelby, I know I haven't been the better friend that you need me, but in this very moment, like, we're going after the best version of ourselves. And right? Like, maybe from the outside looking in, oh, Shelby has a perfect life, or Jane's always happy and she's always posting happy stuff. So she doesn't know anything about depression or, anxiety or feeling lonely. But, to have the desire to want to make things right, to have the desire to handle situations right, like, that is gold. And no one can take that away from us. And even when you were sharing our voice, like, that really touched my soul, because I was telling my husband for a few months now, I was feeling mute, like, even spiritually. And I think that's why I got so fired up when finally, after a year of talking about it, Shelby, I mean, you remember, I was like, I'm going to have a podcast. 1 year later, here I am, because I knew I had a voice, like you have a voice, right? In the sense of there is power, there is healing, there is gold that people want to freely receive. And we're just a bridge. And one of my goals on this podcast is to give people digestible truth and digestible wisdom and this love and warmth that they never felt before. And I know that I'm very, spoiled to be able to know you directly and have you as a friend directly. But maybe those that never got to interact with you in person yet, I know they're going to feel that from me right now. And I feel it right now. So just, again, I wanted to just let you know that you have that, right? And this is the point of having a voice. This is the point of having life, is you kind of touched on it, is it's meant to share with other people, right?
Yeah.
Like God didn't give us all this love and joy just to bottle inside.
Yeah.
Right. So again, when you spoke about just how you carried yourself, in a situation where women were acting some type of way, this is kind of like a devil's advocate question, because I know you're not this, but like, have you ever, been in a season where you felt jealous or you felt envy, or maybe you got in this dark hole of comparison? Because I'll be the first to say, like, Shelby, I get in these funks all the time, and my husband is like my witness. I am crippled by this like suffocating anxiety of, oh my gosh, I don't look like her, or I'm at this age, why don't I have the house right now? Like, I'm guilty of it and I'm working through it. But like, have you ever been in those situations? And if so, how do you cope with it and how do you come out of it? Because I know a lot of people right now listening and watching, they're in it right now. Like they don't know how to come out of it and they don't know how to stop it. But like, I would love to hear, your thoughts on that.
My favorite quote is, comparison is the thief of all happiness. And so it's really easy, especially nowadays with social media at your fingertips. The first thing people typically do in the morning is they wake up and they grab their phone and they look at Instagram or social media and all these things. And right away, your brain is processing all these different emotions about like seeing people on vacation or their new designer bag or their new whatever it is, okay? And or their new fit body, whatever. And it's very easy to get yourself into a hole by looking at social media and comparing yourself right away. And I think we're all guilty of it. I'm really grateful that I've grown a lot the past couple of years, but that was something, especially when I was living in New York. It's very tough out there. It's very expensive. I was working like 5 different jobs. And I've been modeling for 11 years. It's a long time. Yeah. And, I'm finally at a point to where I feel like I'm where I wanted to be. Like when I was 20, I was like, oh, when I'm 25, this is where I want to be. This is where I want to do. And, it might not be at my biggest goal yet, but everything takes time, right? Yeah. Things don't happen overnight. But yeah, it's very easy with social media. A lot of my friends got into the industry really late and a lot older, and they don't have as much experience as that I have, and they have blown up. And one, I'm ecstatic for them, and I love to see my friends thrive, and that's very exciting. But it's also easy for me to be like, man, like I wish I was them. Like, why didn't that happen for me yet? And at the end of the day, I have to remind myself, everybody's journey is so different, and God has you exactly where he wants you to impact the people that you need to impact. I was supposed to go to New York a little bit earlier at one point, and I got into a car accident. I could barely walk, and I had to start swimming for my exercises. And I missed some really huge castings and meetings and opportunities. But during that time, I got super close to my coach. I mean, we were already close, but he became even closer. And I got really close to this one girl that I know that I was able to make an impact in her life, and she was able to come to church. And at the end of the day, like, I'm not here to be famous. I'm here to impact people's lives, right? Because God wants to speak through us to heal and help other people. So I have to continue to remind myself, okay, like, I'm not where I thought I wanted to be, because I'm where I need to be, because I'm where God wants me to be. And like I said, it's so easy to go on your phone and compare yourself, but you really have to sit back and sit in gratitude and be just thankful where you are. And that's another tool that you can use, is anytime that you're feeling like jealous or sad, is sit in gratitude and just start naming all the things that you're thankful for.
Yeah, that's good.
And it's just a reminder to me that I'm doing exactly what I've always wanted to do, which is I do model full time. And it kind of blows my mind to say that, because I've worked 5 jobs at one time. I've worked 3 different jobs at one time. I had to figure it out all on my own when I was in New York. And it was really tough going from job to the next job, to babysitting, to serving, to building sets and like being a PA and doing all this like dirty work. But also too, I feel like God was developing me and molding me to have more understanding and skill set to impact the next person. And also to like, I don't know, I really believe that if I were to have made it at that young age, I don't believe I would have been humble. Oh yeah, I did it all on my own. Where it's like, God's like, hey, it's not about you, it's about me.
No, that's good, man. Like I said, whenever you talk, I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, yes, that's amazing. But yeah, even when you share all that, it's quite interesting because, again, when you talk about all the jobs you've had and all your experiences, it makes me, again, appreciate you more and honor and respect where you are because, you know, when you mention, hey, Jane, I represent a few models. For now, it's probably going to be way more soon. I can feel it. But literally think about it. Because you had the 5 jobs and you were even building sets, right? You're going to inspire these girls also to remain humble, right?
Yeah.
To have moments of humility, like whoever these models' names are, like, hey, you know, you did blow up, but the reality is it's not going to always be that way, right? Like right now you're in your groovy season, things are falling into place. Like be blessed, be grateful, and don't take it for granted though, right? Because God forbid something happens, they have to reset or restart their career. Then they got to do the 5 jobs like Shelbi did when she was a kid. So in all of that, I really do believe that you were placed in those people's lives too, to also show them like, wow, you know, Shelbi did all of this, but look at how grounded she still is. So I, you know, not that I'm like a fly on the wall in your daily life, but I can see that God is literally blessing those models through you, and you also are a huge reason for their growth. So I hope you also take moments to also acknowledge that, right? Like not to say, oh God, it's all me, but no, really through you, you're letting God use you and utilize you. So I hope you also take a little bit of credit as well, right?
Yeah.
In the sense of like, God, you're so good. Like, thanks for using me. Who am I? But you're able to translate that to these models. So again, outsider looking in, Shelbi, that is awesome. Like their success is your success. Their success is God's success, right? And God's success in your success is theirs. So it's like this beautiful rippling effect, right? So, you know, when you talk about all the things that you've, you know, overcome and all the things that you are, like, even when I did your makeup for the first time, that's what drew me to you, right? And leading to this divine moment, right? Even the name of the podcast, Divinely Disruptive, right? I didn't just come up with that name, right? When you even break down the word divine, divinely, that is like of God, right? When you say, oh, somebody is divine, it's a very intense, beautiful, almost borderline intimidating light and vibrancy, right? And then the word disruptive. Like that is the whole point of this podcast, is sharing stories of people that I think are divine, that are disruptive, divinely disruptive. So even as you're just chatting and talking to me, sharing your story to all the viewers and listeners, you are the definition of divinely disruptive, or a woman that is divine and disruptive, right?
That's powerful.
And so I'm just a little shaken, but that's why I'm just so thankful for our timing. Is everything you went through, what you went through led you to this moment and led us to each other. And, you know, in the first episode, I talked about my journey as well, but nothing comes to our, you know, existence on accident. I feel like there are so many people, you know, battling through it. They're going to get to the place of breakthrough, but just, I know that your story has impacted so many people right now, whether they're people of faith, whether they know God, whether they practice religion or some sort of spirituality. But I think something I want to highlight today is it's really about understanding the significance about a relationship with a higher power, right? We call God. But I think today you really showcase that in the most genuine, authentic, natural way, because, you know, let's be real, she's very beautiful, but she's more than beauty. But like when I look at you, like you bring tears to my eyes, because I've never met such a stunning, you know, humble person. And you've really awakened my spirit too. Like even when I'm at the low, that like you still love on me. And that's why I was so honored that you were able to be here today. Is I know sometimes I have like rage and anger, but who doesn't, you know? But at the same time, it's like your love for me as well has inspired me to soften my heart when I have moments of anger and rage. And again, I know a lot of people, it's like we get so hard on ourselves and we lose a lot of friendships because we let our ego and pride get in the way.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm just a living proof that it's okay to have these dark moments. But what's not okay is that we stay in it, we linger in it, we push people away who are clearly trying to help us with clear intentions. And so, you know, just as we kind of like land the plane today, I'm just truly grateful by your heart. And more than anything, I know we were talking about the power of our voice, but Shelbi, like your actions, right? Your demeanor, even right now, like you choose to be present with me. And we could all be doing so much. We could all be numbing the pain and just going out to drink and do drugs or whatever people think is normal. But why not sit with a friend, right? Like, yes, we're recording this on a podcast, but forget all of that. Like, why not sit with a friend who's been wanting to talk to you? Or why not sit with a friend who's been praying for you, right? Yeah. Why not sit with a friend who's had your back from day one, right? Because especially this city, we glorify numbing. Yeah. We glorify self-medication. And again, we're all guilty of this, but look at how much healing, love, and warmth we're both feeling, right? Like, yes, today is about sharing your story and showcasing you, but I hope you feel just as much healing as I am right now, right? I'm just very dramatic and I'm a crybaby, but dramatic. I just really honor you. So something that I always try to ask my guests too, like if there were 3 big life lessons that you would tell your younger self, what would those lessons be? Okay,
I'm gonna answer that in one moment. I do have to say I'm really grateful that we were able to make time and do this evening. Yes. A lot of beautiful conversation, and there's so much power and vulnerability. Yeah. And that's what I try to always preach out to whoever I'm speaking with. Mm-hmm. And also to, like I said, I don't hang out with many people unless I'm working. You probably won't see me unless it's at the gym. Yeah. And the reason I do that is because unless a woman or man adds value to my life, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, I don't typically hang out with a lot of people. And Jane, every time I hang out with you and we part presents, I feel my cup is filled. And that is such a good feeling because, you know, you can have certain people in your life that will just drain you. Yeah. And those are the people that you have to cut out. Yeah. And every time I leave having a conversation, oh my goodness, I just feel so warm and fuzzy inside and my cup is just filled. And I truly believe that God put you in my life for that reason because I don't get my cup filled up often. Yeah. And then to answer that question about what is 3 things that I would tell my younger self. Wow. Okay. Let's think. Tell my younger self is, man, if I could look back at my little 16-year-old self is I would probably tell her we're doing just fine. And because I struggled with depression, anxiety for a very long time. And I'm healed. God is good. That is not something that comes against me anymore. Yeah. Anytime I start to feel like I'm going to go in a dark hole, I rebuke it and I pray hard. The second thing I would say is stop being insecure about your gap. You make a lot of money from it now. And third thing is do not allow other people to write out your story and tell you what to do. I'm a pretty strong-willed woman, and but I can also be very submissive sometimes, and it might be to the wrong people. And so I'm proud of little Shelbi for never going with the flow of things and just always maintaining herself. Yeah. So that's what I would tell my younger self.
Man, that is powerful. And again, I know that people listening in and watching, they were really inspired. And, you know, one of the greatest things that I had, I had this image as we were talking. There's so many people who are interested in modeling, or maybe they have been modeling and they want to give up, but just I can literally see you bringing so much hope and light and love to these people right now. And so thank you so much for not only sharing your story, but sharing also just deep vulnerable personal situations you've gone through. But I know, people, Tony Robbins, he always says things happen for you, not to you, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people have said that, but he's like the originator of that concept. So I love that when you shared your story, in a sense, it's like, Jane, these things happen to me, but they happen for me. Like, look at where I am and look at the lessons I learned. And I know for a fact, if you were to take a moment back in time and, sit next to Shelbi at 16, she would look at you right now and be like, you are a badass. And I love it. So again, I am so thankful for this time that we've had and can't wait to have you back. And we'll have some more juicy topics to talk about. But one of the things I try to do, especially when I introduce my guests for the first time on the podcast, is to really offer an introduction to you, an introduction to your spirit, more importantly. And, I already had a talk with my husband before I started this podcast, is if I'm not real, rugged, raw, and authentic, and I'm not, having sniffles and tears, then I'm not in alignment with my true self. Yeah. I'm not being present, because I'm also tired of seeing people smile and act like everything's fine when they're not fine. Yeah. Right. To be jolly and joyful and filled with happiness when you're truly in a high place, then that's great. But I think it's also healthy for humans to acknowledge when we're low.
Oh yeah, girl. Right? I'm big on if it's okay to not be okay. Yes. And emotions are real and life is tough and you need a strong and good community behind you. Yes. And it's okay to feel emotions. It's okay to go through it because life is expensive and it's really hard. Yeah. And you need something to cling on to and you need someone to vent to and you need something and how to let go of your emotions. Yeah. For me, it's the gym. Yes. And then church is my shelter. Yeah. And then my mom and my community is where I can like lean into, Yeah.
No, I love that. Thank you so much. And make sure you follow her on Instagram. We'll add all the information down below so you can, continue to support her in her journey. I know that I've been your biggest fan and friend and soul sister. So until then, can't wait to, get you back on the next episode soon, because you're just an incredible person and your existence and your presence just really inspires me. So until next time, make sure you protect your peace and keep shining. Bye, guys.
Bye.